Hey there, good evening. Nice to see you. It's always nice to see the people of the Bronx. It is time now for the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters, writers, journalists, editors, all different people. I have to add op-ed writers, opinion writers as well for this particular segment. And we'll start right off with my longtime friend, Lois Harr, who is a retired director of campus ministry and social action at Manhattan University. Always nice to see Lois Harr. How are you? You okay? Everything all right?
Yeah, pretty good. These are tough times, Gary, but it's nice to see you.
Difficult times. Um,
Good to see you.
Now, so you wrote an op-ed piece in the Norwood News that Catholic Relief Services, who you work with and are very passionate about, had lost funding from the Trump administration because they paused funding for many programs, including those provided by the Catholic Relief Services. So what happened? And then just before we went on, you told me about the latest news, but let's review first
Right.
and then get to that.
So USAID is in the executive branch of the government. It was started by John Kennedy, actually, in the 60s in the Cold War, as sort of a way to have soft power and influence and be good to people and help them with their development and relief efforts when they needed them. And so over the years, one of the agencies, USAID, doesn't go out and do everything. They contract to lots of organizations. And one of their largest recipients is Catholic Relief Services. And Catholic Relief Services, technically, is the United States Catholic Bishops' relief and humanitarian arm, I guess you could say. So they work in, I don't know, some 90 or 100 countries around the world. They're invited in by the local Catholic church meeting, like the hierarchy of, like a bishop would invite them or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they were even back in a while ago, they were invited into Afghanistan, where there is no Catholic church, but their reputation is so good and their work is considered so nonpartisan.
And the need was so great. Let's be clear about that.
The Taliban invited them, or the government of Afghanistan, I misspoke, invited them to come and help in Afghanistan. So apparently a lot of people think they're pretty reliable and honest and do what they say.
And what you've just articulated is they cross the borders of politics because there's no love lost between the United States and Afghanistan, but they accepted that because, again, the need was so great and the service was so vital and effective.
And the woman that we met, she came to the United States to go around and talk to people. She was a Muslim woman. She was one of their staff people in Afghanistan. So they also hire people, pretty much always hire lots of local people. They might have some U.S. folks. They don't necessarily, I think their staff is not largely Catholic necessarily. I've met a lot of people who are.
So it's not religion-based, it's humanitarian-based. It's human need-based.
Right.
Right.
I think the church considers it, the Catholic Church.
So cutting back on the funding makes it very difficult.
Right.
So you just can't do it. And all of this work, then whatever, do we know how many people have been served over the years?
How many people have been served? Gee,
hundreds of thousands?
I'm sure it's in all these years that they've been around since after the Second World War. They started out as a real war relief agency and then evolved into a, kind of a, we'll do it all the time. Catholic Relief Services, that is. So it probably is millions of people, actually, over 70 years or whatever.
Wow.
80 years.
I was thinking hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, I think I could look that up, I guess, but it's many people.
Right. And in the piece that you wrote in the Norwood News, let's see, you saw in Kenya, you saw peacemaking projects. In Palestine, you visited a fair trade olive wood workshop, purchased embroidered textiles from a women's group. In Rwanda, you met women, some genocide widows, learning new techniques to grow nutritious food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's the kind of work. And you have personally done that literally all over the world.
Well, I think I concluded the piece by saying I've been to 5 countries on 3 continents. And, I was there I didn't go work for CRS. I was there with students and on educational trips with the college, now university. And, we'd go with maybe 8 or 12 students and a couple of advisors or chaperones or what have you. And we would visit various projects. And we always, wherever we could, we would try to visit a CRS project. And they were very, very hospitable to us. They liked to show it to U.S. folks because the money mostly comes from the United States, right, to support it's the U.S. Catholic Bishops Project. So, yeah, so I saw people doing these things. I mean, one of the things I really want to mention, Gary, that I think is so tragic in Kenya, I did see peacemaking in a slum, or they call them, I guess they call them slums, in Mathare, and it was in a community where different tribal folks had some tension, so they developed these peacemaking programs. But the other thing I saw in Kenya was we visited a hospital, and I had been saying to the students, when you talk about social justice and social change, sometimes people have heard that story about there's a guy walking along the ocean and he sees a kid throwing starfish back in the ocean. And the guy says, you can never save all the starfish. What difference does it make? How does it matter? And the kid picks one up and says, matters to this one. And he throws it back in the ocean. And I said to students, that's nice. I said, but actually on some of the social problems, what we need is to change the ocean. We need to change the tide, right? So I use that analogy in Kenya with the guy directing this program of PEPFAR, the President's Emergency Relief Program for AIDS Reduction or whatever, right? And the guy said to us, wait a minute, stop. He said, this is something George Bush did, George Bush, the son. He put this investment into Africa for AIDS. And the guy said to us, and that changed the tide.
Wow.
So that's a big one.
So this is a big thing. And the being selfish, let's say in the mind of, let's say, Donald Trump, the value to
that's
this,
scary, Gary. That's scary.
But the value to this for America is when people in other parts of the world are healthier, we're all healthier.
Yes.
It makes from
bacteria and viruses and all, they don't know that there are borders out there.
So you told me this morning, and I hadn't seen it. Now we're recording this Thursday on March 5th. But you told me this morning that the courts did something that was of some significance here.
Right. So the lower courts had ordered the administration to resume USAID funding.
It had been cut in the big announcement and all that.
And then they told them they had to restore it, and they didn't agree right away and challenged it. And it went to the Supreme Court. And this morning, apparently, I've seen a couple of things go by, that the Supreme Court upheld that decision and told them they have to reinstate the funding. Now, the thing is, for a place like, okay, great, that's very good, right? I mean, that sounds like a good thing. And it is a good thing. It'll probably be challenged some more in court. And the other part of that is just this past Saturday on March 1st, CRS had to lay off 1,200 people. So 1,200 people. And they only have about 4,000 or 5,000 people working anyway. So
that's like a third of their workforce.
So I don't know how this is the Department of Government efficiency in the least.
So even if the money is reinstated, as the Supreme Court has ruled, but of course now, or a lower court, whoever it was, and there's going to be, there's going to be more court challenges, you may not have the personnel to deliver the services and operate the system. Here, stupid question of the day. What happens to those 1,200 people?
Well, someone got in touch with me to ask if I would give a good word for them at another nonprofit that they were going to work for. So I mean, that's what people are doing. They're scrambling.
Just try and find another job. And
you have to have some expertise to work, especially to work in the field. But anywhere, I couldn't actually work for CRS, for a salary, because I'm not technically skilled enough. I can bring students there, and I can.
That would shock me, Lois. You are quite skilled.
I would have to know spreadsheets and probably viral medicine or something better, And that's the kind of people they hire. They hire engineers, water experts, agronomists. People have real skill sets to do what people need in the countries where they're working. So it's not like this is some fly-by-night, let's throw money around to people. They're doing real, important life-saving work. And
it's very sad. Now, I'm going to quote from your piece. I am a witness to life-giving training, support, and profound respect for all human dignity. supported by Catholic Relief Services in 5 countries on 3 continents. This is fascinating. I didn't run into a single radical lunatic, in case you're wondering. So this money is not a case of, some sort of politic or, Democrat, Republican, or democracy versus dictatorship, which of course now the lines are blurred when it comes to the United States of America. But this was purely really to help people do better. And of course, any country that does better, where people are helped is a good thing.
It's enlightened self-interest, Gary.
Is it particularly ironic or disturbing? I don't know how to characterize it, that the Trump administration boasts of being, religious and faithful and church-based and God-fearing, and that's what they, he sold Bibles, which is, and yet here in the most fundamental human support, human rights, valuing human beings, this is how they treat it.
It's just beyond belief, really, which I don't really think they have any. But so, for instance, one of the most frequent, a friend of mine just told me that in the Torah, so in the, I'm a Catholic, so I refer to it as the Hebrew scriptures, but in the Torah, one of the most repeated phrases is to care for the stranger in the land, because you were strangers in Egypt. God says this, and that God saved the people. And then in the Christian scriptures, we have these stories about the big one that Pope Francis will talk about, and anyone teaching this sort of social justice would go to the story of the Good Samaritan. And, we talk about the Good Samaritan. It's a phrase in our language now, right? That, a guy I fell down, a guy helped me up, or, I got a flat tire. Some stranger came by and helped me. We say that's a Good Samaritan now, right? But back then, Jews and Samaritans were like, they didn't talk to each other. They were.
We're almost out of time.
Okay.
But the
Samaritan helped the guy who was not.
I'm going to give you the Jewish side because I am Jewish.
Yes.
It's called Tikkun Olam, and it means repair the world. See, I filled it in. You see, we're on the same page, even though we come from different places. Well, we still come from the Bronx, and
that's right.
So there it is. Anyway, Lois Harr, thank you. Is there you got about 30 seconds? Anything else that you need to mention in this, or are you just hoping?
I just hope that the people of goodwill will keep resisting and be the loyal opposition, and just insist that we have to do the right thing, whether it's Social Security, Medicare, international aid. People's lives are at stake and their way of life, and they keep telling us we're going to be better for it. I don't see that yet.
Not yet. Lois Harr, retired director of campus ministry and social action at Manhattan University. Thank you for everything, even just being my friend. That's worth it all.
Thank you.
All right. So we'll take a short break, folks. And when we come back, you're going to love the filmmaker we have coming up next. Don't go.
19.7% of Bronxites currently experience food insecurity. Meanwhile, instead of these nice, colorful foods, this is the best food that they have access to. If this sounds like you, there are a bunch of resources to get healthy food for free or cheap. If you want to help, you might consider donating or volunteering in one of these places. Community fridges like this one are all over the city, and allow New Yorkers to conveniently donate extra food to people who might need it. Go to this link and find your nearest one. Food banks and pop-up events like these provide millions of healthy meals to families in need. These organizations are distributing meals to Bronxites as we speak, and are always accepting donations and volunteers.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. I am thrilled because we have a really talented Bronx filmmaker on with us. So let us say a good evening to Emmitt H, who is a filmmaker with Wabi Sabi Productions. Emmitt, nice to see you again. How are you?
Nice to see you, Gary. I'm doing great.
So just tell me a little bit about you. Now, you were, people may or may not know this, you're a former police officer. Tell me how you went from being a police officer to being a filmmaker with Wabi Sabi Productions.
Okay, once I got injured and retired from the New York City Police Department, I started in theater acting and so forth. And then from there, after years of being in theater acting and producing theater, I wound up getting another injury, and I wound up, instead of doing theater, going into producing film. That's how I got into film.
And the point of view that you have, and at least what I've understood from your website and also from some of the things I've seen, is you really are an advocate. I mean, the whole idea, or part of the idea, is to do things and produce films and produce stuff that makes change, right? That's what you're about.
Yes, it started when I formed my Wabi Sabi production company, which was about theater and performance and social issues. And then when I transitioned into film, I had the same goals to do film, but not just do any films, but do films that will possibly have an impact and change some of the social issues that was impacting community and impacting myself.
Forgive me for not knowing, but Wabi Sabi comes from where? It means something, and I'm sorry
Yeah,
I don't know, but we're curious about it. And we'd love to hear about it.
yeah. Wabi Sabi means the art of imperfection. It's a Japanese term, Wabi Sabi. And because my wife is a Buddhist, when I started my production company and I was trying to come up with a name, she had a book called Wabi Sabi Simple. And I said, "Oh, that's a great name because I feel like I'm imperfect and I do embrace the imperfections in myself and in other people and in the community and society." So I thought it was perfect to represent who I was, what I was, and that's how the company name and Bobby
Bef- Before we go into some of we're going to show some films and things like that. I'm just curious. So you were a police officer. Did you always have in the back of your mind that you either wanted to be an actor or you wanted to do film, or was this something really like one of those things that you never know what's going to turn out in life, so you kind of changed your life in that way, or was it really always in the background?
It was never in the back of my mind
Wow.
to even be. I was very shy. I hated being on stage. I hated being in front of. I was kind of a behind the scenes and did not really enjoy speaking in front of people, being on stage, or being on TV, or none of that. But what happened is when I retired from the police department, I started doing stand-up comedy, which not too many people know about. And from stand-up comedy, I had stage fright, which led me to taking acting classes in theater to build up my confidence on stage. And then that led me to begin my acting career on stage and realize that acting was very therapeutic because it really helped me from a mental standpoint.
And listen, I've been on TV for a long time. It helps you kind of become a person, become a personality in a way, or find the personality that's within you. I mean, I know about it because I've been doing this, of course, for a very long time. I want to congratulate you. We read the article in the Bronx Times that said Bronx filmmaker nominated for an Astor Award at the Triborough Film Festival. What was the award, or the nomination, and what was the film that got nominated?
Okay, the Triborough Film Festival is a festival. It's actually a festival really designed to help independent filmmakers get involved and do their work and present their art. I was very interested because it was a New York Film Festival, and my film that was nominated was Dancing with Waves, which was a documentary about this dance and community development group called New Wave Dance, Youth, and Community Development. And so I had a relationship with them and knew about them and had worked with them for over a decade. And I thought it was time to bring their story to life.
Well, we have the trailer from that, and we can show that. So I think what we'll do is let's look at that, and then I want to hear more about the Dancing with Waves and the New Wave Dance Youth and Community Development Incorporated that you support so strongly. So, ladies and gentlemen, here it is, Dancing with Waves.
This is my passion. Someone gave me the opportunity to express myself when I was younger, and I wanted to do the same thing with other kids.
I dance because it's kind of like an escape for me.
Not every child in the very beginning wants to dance. My goal is to introduce them to something different. I don't want them to be like someone else. You have kids that are coming together from all different backgrounds.
I tend to have patience with everybody else, my students, but I'm trying to extend grace to myself.
Every time they start crying, they say that they love it every single time I dance.
Do it, 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 do it. Get it, 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 get it. Missy in this doing, you ain't never seen. Missy in this doing, you ain't never seen. Get it, 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 get it.
There we go. Congratulations, Emmitt.
you.
And so that is a full-length film. We've only seen a section of it there, but tell us a little bit about the larger production.
Okay, the larger production is a short film. It's about 30 minutes long. And I want to give a shout out to the Bronx Council of Arts, who I put in a proposal, was able to get some grant money to help do that production. Now, the film kind of follows the founder, who we call Miss Tammy. And Miss Tammy, who started dance when she was like 6 years old and in the community. And she was impacted so much by that experience that as she developed and got older, she decided she wanted to give back and do the same thing for other young people. Hence the beginning of the New Wave Dance Group and Community Development. Not only do they dance, as you see in the film, they also get involved in the community by giving back. They do turkey giveaways, they do book bag giveaways, they do tea parties. So it's an all-over development for the young people in ways that not just in the dance sense, but in ways that could impact them on their personal skills.
And based on what you had told us just a few moments ago about your interest in advocacy, this really is it. I mean, giving young people opportunities, especially in the Bronx, to express themselves and do their talent and all those kinds of things. So it all comes together, and it makes total sense. Let's talk about the other trailer that we have, Beyond the Limits. What is Beyond the Limits?
Beyond the Limits is my take on the Twilight Zone series. I was a big fan of the Twilight Zone and always wondered how I could create something similar but different. And then one day it just came to me. It's disability. It's the Twilight Zone from a disability perspective. And that's a social issue because of the bias against so many people with disabilities that obviously being a person with a disability myself, it became just an obvious way for me to take my take on disability advocacy and bring that into film with this series, this project, that we are in the process of completing the pilot now.
So let's take a look. It is Beyond the Limits. And take a look.
In a world where communication transcends spoken language, Beyond the Limits explores mysterious realms of the mind through the experiences of disabled characters.
Everybody, I've got have a little bit of an announcement to make. I've just gotten an audition for the lead role in the next film, Blind Ambition.
You will be a sighted actor playing a blind man.
So what?
Stop resisting!
Drones are on the way, Commander.
Let's roll! Stop resisting!
All right, there we go. Congratulations. The technology in that is raised up a level. Is that a recent production?
Yeah, we're still in the process. That's the trailer for what we're still working on.
Oh, you're still working on it. Wow.
Which will be the pilot series. Yeah, I wind up partnering with this Hungarian award-winning filmmaker who I met out in Utah at the film festival, and we decided he was into sci-fi, and I'm like, oh great, I can finally do my project because he has that experience in technology. So all the sci-fi and FX and all that stuff, the drones he designed and they created with his film company. So it's been a international collaboration to complete this project and get it done.
Well, it's tremendous. It looks tremendous. We certainly will look forward. Maybe when you get the final product, you can come on back. We've got about a minute left. Just what's next? So you're going to work on that film, work on Beyond the Limits, but anything else, or it's just keep going? I mean,
well, yeah, Beyond the Limits is the main focus now because we think it's going to be a series, and once we get the pilot done, we have other episodes to really make this and make the full thing to where is it an episodic? We can do a whole season if we can get funding. And then now, we're just trying to we're going to be doing a crowdfund in the near future to raise funds to make the film fully accessible, to make a website that's fully accessible for people with disabilities.
Listen, you're doing great work, Emmitt, and that's why we feature you here on the Bronx Buzz. Wabi Sabi Productions, look it up. You can see all kinds of really cool stuff in there. I pulled out a couple of other videos that I really liked, and I just have tremendous respect for what you do and for your passion for what you do and applying your talent to make it happen. So we appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Gary, and thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, we certainly will. Again, keep going. And that will do it, folks, for the Bronx Buzz. We thank Emmitt and our other guests. And you know what we always say, if the curtain don't fall, the creek don't rise. We'll be back next week. Good night.